Hi there, this is Melanie Fainall here to evaluate my two resources and on how accessible they are to all students. First, I'm going to look at a PowerPoint on landforms that I use, and then the second, I'm going to look at a worksheet. So just to give you a little background information, in third grade, what we do at the beginning of the year is we talk about communities, reading maps, and also landforms. Now, the importance with learning landforms is because when we go later into the year and we talk about modern day Brazil and Spain, as well as ancient China and ancient Egypt, the geography plays a big part in the country's history as well as their economy. So what I try and do is, part of our communities unit is teach students these landforms through this hands-on lesson. Now, going off of the accessibility handbook, this is great because I could easily turn it into alt text so it could speak to students if I wanted to. As I go a little bit further on, I try and create each and every slide in the same exact format so it was easy for students to understand. I would start with the type of landform at the beginning, and then I would give the definition of what it is as well as real life examples. So not only am I giving students who need that visual picture, that need to see in words what is being said, or for those auditory learners who need to hear with what's being said, it's all in one PowerPoint, so I got a lot of bang for my buck there. And another thing that goes along with this is I also meet my tactile learner needs by incorporating a Play-Doh portion of it. So not only are students learning about the different landforms, they're also creating their own island. So students will start with a ball of clay, they'll turn it into an island, and then slowly as we learn about the different landforms, they'll then create or add in, keep going, a peninsula, a mountain, a valley, and we talk about how we would make each of those. So not only are they learning the vocabulary, they're also creating that as well. So it's definitely involving accommodations with very hands-on experiences. Also giving the vocabulary right away and front-loading it and using it and manipulating with it as well. Going to the UDL principles, I think it hits principle 1 pretty well because it's meeting all the needs of all the learners. Providing multiple means of expression for principle 2, maybe instead of doing just the Play-Doh, I could have students draw a map instead. I know I had one student who really bugged her that she got Play-Doh under her fingernails and had a sensory thing that went along with it. So maybe students can draw a map on paper instead of making the island that way and showing the symbol representation instead. Or even going along with that symbol representation, if they're having trouble drawing it, maybe making it on a Word document or a shared whiteboard using shapes and things like that could be used as well. And later on, what they do, I did have my students make is an island on their own where they picked three three landforms, and then they had to color code it. So then there was also a rubric and a checklist, so students knew exactly what they needed to have on their island as well as an extension activity. Oops. And principle 3, it provided multiple ways of engagement. All my students, that whether they were interested in just making the island, they were interested in making the Play-Doh, I feel like it reached many of my students that way. So overall, I was pretty impressed with how my landforms PowerPoint hit a lot of those UDL principles and provided multiple ways of learning for my students. Second thing we're going to look at is a math worksheet. So currently we are teaching addition, multi-digit addition in my math class. Later this week we are going to be talking about adding 4-digit numbers with this worksheet right here. I don't know if you can see it very well. It has grid lines, so it is able, it helps kind of more with that organization for some students. I could eventually even print off more grid paper just to help students and give them that tool for that as well. Now, looking that there is a lot on the paper, so for some of my students, they do get a little overwhelmed seeing 12 problems on a paper. There's a couple more that are down below the screenshot right now. So I could easily just take post-it notes and cover some of them, give them extra workspace that way. Or even for some students, I can just highlight which ones I would like them done to just kind of focus them in and not try and overwhelm them, which is more of like a tier 1 accommodation for them. Unfortunately, this one doesn't meet the principles for UDL as well as the PowerPoint does, because I feel like with a worksheet you might be a little bit more limited. Providing multiple means of representation. Currently, all students are doing is math is pretty explanatory with adding the 2-digit numbers, using numbers, and regrouping. If I wanted to, if I covered up some of the problems there, I could have them maybe represented by drawing pictures of the base 10 blocks and having them do that. But then I would have to, again, create room for it. And sometimes for students who have difficulty drawing, especially the little cubes for thousands, that could be a difficult task for them to do. As a tool on the side, I could offer base 10 blocks as a tool for them to use if they need that concrete example as well. Provide multiple meanings for expression and understanding. Unfortunately, you're showing the problems and how you solve them right there on the paper. I could add a component where they have to explain their thinking. I do have some students who are non-readers or have difficulty expressing what they're doing through words, so maybe I could incorporate some type of way that they could record how they're saying or something on top of it, but it would be an added feature on top of that worksheet. And then as for Principle 3, providing multiple means of engagement, unfortunately, this is a very dull and boring worksheet, mostly looking at the skills and being able to do that. I could take these numbers and turn them into word problems using students' names, trying to engage them that way. I could use this and turn it into a game and look for correctness and accuracy and maybe see who can solve the problem the quickest and the most accurate and turn it more into a game. So this worksheet on its own is not very engaging. I could do a lot of things to manipulate it to make it better, or have things on the side to help enhance this worksheet. But overall, it's unfortunately not very engaging. It doesn't provide a lot of opportunities for students to express their understanding in different ways, and it doesn't really allow the opportunity to show their understanding through multiple representations. So this worksheet, I would definitely have to do some tweaking and lots of modifications, as well as maybe some add-on components to meet the needs of my students that way. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to post on the discussion board. Thanks for listening.